having network issues. Okay, now, good evening, everyone. I think we are right now. Good evening. I promised last week that we are going to have two HR professionals here. So we have two HR professionals in our topic for the month. Don't forget our topic for the month: bias versus fairness in hiring. So when it comes to hiring, what bias, what is fairness? I remember last week I was doing all of the talking and we invited a job seeker and he shared his own stories regarding and how he has actually experienced bias, and it was a very touching story because it was so it was so evident that bias was in play. They actually asked him to go because of his tribe, right? In quotes, his tribe. So it was really a very um, experience for him. We was sharing the story last week. So this week, I already promised us I'm going to have HR professionals. They are here to just tell us what exactly is going on, what is bias. Can we actually curb this thing called bias? Is it can we curb it? Can we is it something that we can work on? Is it something that is inevitable that let's just accept that this is it and let's continue our life like that? And that's why we are here, of course. So if you are here, you are streaming with us, welcome. And if you'll be watching this after this session, you are welcome. Drop your comments, drop your questions. So I have on stream with me Mr. Isaac. Mr. Isaac is an HR professional. I also have on stream with me Mr. Adetoye. He's my boss, my senior talent specialist, my boss. You are welcome, sirs. Thank you so much for joining me in this session. Thank you for your support, of course, because you have to be so supportive for you to be here this wonderful evening. So let us go straight to the session. I want us to start with a story. Mr. Isaac, I want telling us, give us an example. I don't know if you've experienced, whether as a candidate or as an HR professional, you've experienced any form of bias when it comes to hiring before. Can-
Okay, good day, everyone. First off, I want to appreciate you for such a creative idea of putting this podcast together. It's a big one, I must say. So, to your question on whether or not I have experienced bias in recruitment, if you're asking if I have experienced bias in recruitment as an applicant, then of course.
yes,
But
either as an applicant or as an HR professional.
okay, I mean, in one way or the other, we have been pushed aside. So I have not gotten to experience biased recruitment on a physical basis. But I feel the screening that I don't get to see, there must have been biased decision made. So if you're asking if I have gotten to witness being biased in decisions that are related to my applications, I would say no, because I guess they are usually done before I even get to witness the physical interview and all that.
Hi, Mr. Isaac. I can't hear you, but I don't know if you can share your. Hello, Mr. Isaac.
Yes, I'm with you.
I was saying you can share your story with us because where you've experienced bias, you can share with us.
Okay, so I was okay, thank you. I mentioned earlier that the world is so digital that most times you get your decisions on applications virtually. So I wouldn't be able to tell if the reasons I didn't get responses from certain firms I applied at are due to bias decision making. So in that sense, I have never witnessed or experienced a physical um, bias recruitment process. So I can't convict anybody of being biased in their decisions towards not accepting me into their firm. So that's what I mentioned. So I don't have a relatable story to share about that.
No problem. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Adetoye, are you there? Would you with us? Have you experienced bias as a candidate or as a HR professional? Please share your story with us.
All right. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Isaac. And thank you, our listeners, for joining us. I feel very honored to be here speaking. I'll just run quick to the question. I don't know if you can hear me, Jane, or you can hear me, but I'm going to echo a little bit of what Isaac said regarding his response. I think yes, I'm a bit like him
Yes,
in a
I can hear you.
sense. Most of the interviews I have experienced as a candidate were done virtually. So it might be difficult to tell if it was done, if bias were made in that to that effect. But however, as a recruiter, have I been biased in the time past? Yes, I think I have been biased in time past. And the bias thing, it has a way of slipping into what we do, especially early when we started on the journey. Where we're just starting out, and it was all about we just excited to fill the role. We were not so knowledgeable about structure or how to conduct, interviews. So a lot of times, how we feel, our personality comes into play. When we are speaking with candidates, and somewhere, somewhat bias can creep in. I can, if you talk about a story, I can use an example. So some years back, I was to interview a candidate for what's the role now called, a content creator some years back, and because that's the first time I'm actually feeling that kind of a role, and I didn't know so much about it. So all I did was just did a little bit of a research about who a content creator is and what some of the things that I needed to look out for. um, and then I remember I interviewed a couple of candidates, and I was unsure about if they were the best candidate or not. Number one, I also have to remember that I didn't know so much about it, but I was also trying it. I a little bit trying to decipher who was the best fit, But I remember I met one candidate that they effect on me. Okay, I don't know if you can.
I can hear you, sir.
Okay, great. I just wanted to be sure I'm seeing connection error. So this experience with this particular candidate while speaking with the candidate created the first impression she gave to me, created a sort of a halo effect on me. Why? Because of the way she communicated, the way she said the right things, whether they were right or not, I don't know. But she said, and assumed right things to me. And throughout the whole session, I'm not sure if I listened to so much about the other details and some of the things that I said, because the first impression she made on me, based on how she spoke, how she communicated, the fluent English speaking created, like I said, some sort of halo effect, so much that I looked and I shied away from the technical aspect of the work, of the requirement for the role. And then I think I remember when we finally met with the hiring manager, and then the hiring manager met with the candidate. While and thank God I was on seat that day during the final interview. Then being someone who knew much better than I was on the role, asked some certain questions that I began to ask myself, how come I never thought of this? Right. So some of these questions kind of opened my eyes to realize that, I'm not sure this candidate is the best fit, because even she herself couldn't defend some of the things she said she had done. But then I pushed her forward to say she was the best candidate. Now, wow, the bias that was
Yeah.
created via an halo effect that she had on me. So that's I use that as a yardstick to assume that she was the best candidate. I mean, that was one of the ones I can remember.
Yeah.
There are quite a number of them that happens like that. So, but yes, that was one I could remember to talk about.
Wow. Wow, that's such an interesting story. I think this happens to us even as recruiters every time as recruiters. And I really want to actually speak from both sides, even from the candidate's perspective as well. Last week we had it here. He was really speaking about some of his experiences, and he mentioned, let me just run through the story. He mentioned that he went for an interview and his interviewer was you, and then I think she asked a question. She was arguing with him, making it seem like he was the one arguing. I don't know if you understand. So he just felt like because of that, he said she mentioned the statement. I can't really remember now, but it has to do with tribe or something like this is how you people do, something like that, something of that nature. This is how you guys do, like talking about the tribe. And because of that, they ghosted him. Like they didn't even give him feedback. They ghosted him straight away. So, Mr. Isaac, I would want you to tell us, in that kind of case, what do you think has happened? Because at that point, yesterday, I said yesterday, last week, I was arguing with him that no, it could be that there was a way you answered the question. Maybe you shouted at or your voice was too loud, or maybe you were arrogant or something. And he said no, that he was sure it was not arrogant. So, from the candidate perspective now, when it comes to bias, because they feel, oh, I'm not from this tribe. The interview actually mentioned it, that that's how you people do, like that's how you're in your tribe or something. That's how Igbos do, something like that. And because of that, it was ghosted. So, what can you say about that, Mr. Isaac, when it comes to the candidate's perspective now? If you were in that position, what would you feel, and how would you think the situation happened? I don't know if you understand my point now. From the candidate's perspective, how would you feel if you are interviewing me now, or I'm interviewing you, and I say, oh, maybe you mentioned something, or maybe your voice. Some people have confident voice, and to me as the interviewer, I just feel, oh, you are too arrogant. The way you answered me, you just shock me, that kind of thing. And I say, oh, that's how you people do, right? That's how you guys do, that kind of thing. And because of giving feedback, not to talk. So, Mr. Isaac, what would you from the candidate, because I know that candidates will be watching this, how would you, or what would you even say? Would you say it's the recruiter's fault, or would you say
Okay, thank you very much. So first off, I wasn't in the scenario, so I want to assume that the recruiter was being ethnic bias. Maybe he or she had experienced the time with Igbo people and has developed the stereotype to assume that that's very arrogant or very rude. And maybe coincidentally, the candidate's voice is the confident one. Okay, so in this case,
yeah,
there is, if this is the scenario, then definitely the recruiter was being stereotyped. He or she stereotyped in a decision, having concluded that because he is Igbo, he is arrogant.
yeah,
Okay, as the applicant, if I were to be the applicant, this tells me a lot about the organizational culture.
yeah,
So if the HR is this way, you should know that you are going into an organization that has certain type of culture, even if it might not be the same with other colleagues, but the HR presenting herself that way
yeah,
has painted the firm in a very um, toxic way. Yeah. So
yeah,
definitely, as the applicant, we all know the situation of the country. Yeah. So everybody is out for a job and doesn't want to
yeah,
fumble his interview opportunity. So definitely, I would be as respectful as possible, which is what I expected him to have done. Be respectful, go on with it, just laugh at he or she's rude statement and be apologetic. Go on with the interview. But personally, as the applicant, I wouldn't even take up that kind of opportunity if it comes at me, because it tells me a lot about how the
yeah,
work culture will be. If the HR is not approachable and she has already stereotyped
yeah.
the Igbo tribe, so it would not
I
make
agree.
HR approachable when I become an employee. If you are treating me this way as an applicant,
Yes.
then when I become an employee, you wouldn't want to listen. So as the applicant, I'll just even I wouldn't even expect a response from that. Even if I get a response, I wouldn't take that. But the situation of the
Yeah.
country has made us to cope with anything. So in the case where the applicant is down for a job and all that, you could just manage and
Yeah.
try and get out. But that is an example of being stereotypic. So that's a form of ethnic bias. So yes, if that was the case, yes,
Yeah. I
the
think,
that was being biased.
yeah. I think you're very correct. If a recruiter can actually do that during interview, I wonder what their employees are going through, that kind of thing. So yes, I think I agree with you on that. And I have a burning question where it happens everywhere. And I'm going to tell you, I'm sorry about the network, guys. The network is crazy here. I think it's raining and a lot of glitch. So, Mr. Datu, I don't know if you've been in that kind of situation. Our hiring manager tell you, "Oh, we need a female for this role. A female can do better in this role." Uh, and you know that, of course, you know, I, I, I know we are all HR professionals. We know about diversity, all of those things. Of case when you are to fill a role, do you actually believe in that kind of stereotyped thinking that if we do better, we need a female? We don't need. In fact, I've even had clients who told me that they are not a Muslim in this role. Do you believe like we have some roles where it should be a female and not a male, strictly for Muslims and not? strictly for dark people and not short people and not fair people, all of those things.
That's a tricky question. Yes, very tricky. Okay. Um, I have to be careful here. So, okay.
Yeah.
So my opinion here is I will carefully choose my words. So when it comes to cases like that, I've been in such a situation where a hiring manager or even a business owner, wants to hire, and then they specifically tell me the kind of gender that they want. I've not had any experience with religion, as the case may be. I I think, and emphasis on the word I think. I think that there are some rules that are more suited to some gender than the other. I think there are some. So what I mean by that is this. So you know this saying that they say what a man can do, a woman can do better, right?
Mm.
I don't think it's true. Does not mean that a woman, there are some things that a man can do that some certain women can do it exceptionally well. Doesn't mean a woman can do it better. So because when you consider the percentage of the number of people who does it as a male, for example, and the percent of people who do it as a female, the gap is too wide for you to assume that a woman can do it better. Let me use, for example, now something we can relate to. A bus conductor is more predominantly a male thing, right? So imagine, because I've seen one or two women doing it. Does that mean that a woman can do it better? Sometimes I feel that some roles, let me even go into, I know if I say this, somebody will say, oh, I'm trying to use house as a, family as a case study, right? In a house where you have a father and a mother, things that had to do with food, that is predominantly occupied by women. Does that mean men cannot do it? Of course they can. Now, I personally believe that it's more of a woman thing than a man. Does not mean that men should not or cannot do it. But then you can look at it from another angle, that but there are a lot of men who are chefs, but they are doing it as a profession, not in their house. They are two different ball games. Now, so the thing is, I personally think there are some things that are more tilted to a particular gender than the other for whatever reason. They probably do it better. So, and the same thing is applicable when it comes rules like that, that some women, some female gender will do it much better than men would. There are some men who may be able to do it, but the number, when you consider the percentage, is very low compared to the percentage of women who do it. Now, maybe by the reason of over time, that has always been a trend. Maybe that is the reason why. Whatever the reason is, I think that there are some rules that are some is more suited to certain genders than the other. So that's how that's how I think I'm going to. I don't know if I if I answered your
I think
question correctly,
so.
but
I think I'm going to hold you on that. I'm with that, but don't you think that it's against the DEI when it comes to diversity,
so
inclusion, and all of those
okay,
things?
so but
Don't you think?
okay, so but reality is this. Think about it. Let me think of a typical one now. I don't want to use the one I use example. I'm trying to pick a prepared. If you look at if you look at roles like roles that are within the sales rules. When I say sales, I'm not just talking like regular field sales, but like maybe partnerships, head of relationships, and all of that. If you check any industry, who are the people that are which of the gender dominates that profession more? You find out that it's
Females,
more
I
women
guess.
than men.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean I've met a lot of men that can do that? But it's predominantly women. But yet, you just talked about diversity, yes, and they all preach it. I think it's just maybe it's a bias. I don't know. So that's why I'm saying that I'm not saying it's a thing. It might be a bias, or it might also be that it's just a thing subconsciously. People just tilt towards that direction. If you give, if you is for example, even if you put out a job post for that kind of a role, you will notice percentage of people who apply for that role more women than men. Right? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So that's how it is.
Sure.
I'll give you another example. Look at it. You say you want to hire a facility manager. You find more men there than women. The nature of that work is more physically tasking. So it tends to tilt towards men than women. So for me, if I want to hire that role, the first thing that comes to my mind, especially when I think about the nature of the role, I'll tilt more towards men. It doesn't mean I'm being biased. If I find a woman that can do it, I will. But I'm just saying that maybe it's a bias, maybe it's not. I don't know, but it's just a thing. So if you check throughout industries like that, it's a thing, it's there. But yet we all preach
It's a thing,
diversity. So
yes.
does that mean they are not being so? It's
Yes.
just there. So that's why I don't know. Maybe somebody else can say it differently better than I'm saying it. But I'm just saying that it's a thing, it's just there. And if you check it throughout industry, it's like that.
Mm,
So I mean, that's that's how I will
sure.
respond to your question. Yes.
Sure, exactly. It's a thing. That's exactly why, because somebody just asked me now for my I said I no, I must ask because it's everywhere. Because we want, I think more of hiring managers, business owners. No, I want a male for this. No, I would prefer female for this, and all of those things. And then if the other gender applies, recruiters, we have to send them rejection email. I won't lie, this is a recruiter's confession series, right? I've been in that position where, particularly for a female, there, but I had male candidates. I had no choice but to send them emails. Oh, sorry, we can't move on with you because their applications closely aligned with you know those English that we put together if we want to send emails like that. So those kind of things happens, and it's everywhere. And sometimes I just think about it and can these things stop? Like, can we actually work on this, or it's just that we've accepted that oh, females do better, or some genders particular role, some genders don't do better in this particular role. So let's just leave it like that. We are all biased, and maybe it's not biased. But then, if we are going to critically look at it, we are it's against the diversity rule, the DEIB rule. It's against it. If there's no one who wants to do it, it's but then, Mr. Isaac, I want to hear from you. What's your own take regarding that?
Okay, thank you very much. I was thinking I had escaped that question because this question comes with a
Can't
lot of
escape.
backlash. So I was even so grateful that I didn't get that
You
question.
cannot.
Okay, so in the aspect of gender specification on hiring, yeah. So I think the company policy has uh, a lot to do in these decisions. First off, we wouldn't target being biased if the excuse given or the reason given is work related. Let me give an instance. Okay, so if you are recruiting for
Okay.
a factory and you know that
Okay.
you need say production operators, we know that
Yeah.
operations in the factory goes on 24/7, yeah, and it would not
Yeah.
be too logical to have too many women on ground considering maternity leave and all that. So if you're having a lot of women in the factory and say five of them put to bed in a month, you're having like 3 months maternity leave, it's going to kill operation. So the company policy indirectly would be out for more men than women. Likewise, we have this there are so
Mm.
many female-led companies now. There's the Shecluded and
Mm.
likes. So those kind of firms, they would place more preference on empowering the female gender because, of course, they believe anything
Yeah.
a man can do, a woman can. So the idea of specifying the gender needed for a position is strongly influenced by the company policy. So if there is a work-related reason for specifying a gender
Yeah.
needed for that position, then I don't factor it being biased. I only factor it being biased if your decision is influenced by a factor that does not affect the work performance. then it's being biased. Or maybe you have a special thing for fair ladies, or you have a special thing for women, and you just want to work with a woman when there is no specific need for, there's no factor that will affect the performance if a man does it. So that's when I consider it being biased. So I think the company policy influences this a lot. So I would like to stop there so I don't get on some toes.
I think I agree with you. I agree with you. I think that's a very NEPA. Hmm. This is our NEPA issue. So I think I agree with you. I think um that's a very good point. Like where you stand, that's the best place you can stand right now. I talked to a lawyer and I think she had my friend, the Abisola Olowe. So she mentioned that it's even wrong if you want to put out a job description and you tag it female is more preferred. You know, we've seen job descriptions like that now. They'll put male preferred or females are more preferred, so like that. She said it's wrong that we cannot do that. And so if we are saying that we can't put it out there, so why do we have it in our minds that, oh, I know that I can't put it out there, but I'm hiring females only, or I'm hiring males only. So that's going to be a discussion for time because it's really, really deep. And my own stand is, as we are saying, okay, there are some jobs, we see company policy and all of that. I still believe that it's against the rule. If we want to hold it, let us hold it. If we are not holding it, let us leave it. Right? That's my stand. But then let us move to another part of it. So now let's talk about the halo effect. I think Mr. Detoye mentioned. How do you think we can stop that as HR professionals? Because trust me, it happens every time. I think unconsciously, even unconsciously, we just do. We have that, oh, because this person is she speaks, or because this person is um she went I remember there was a time I was hiring for a particular role. I mentioned on the first series of this month, I was hiring for a particular role, and I was interviewing with the MD, and we interviewed the lady. And immediately after the interview, the MD just said no, that she's putting on, what did she say she was putting on? Red. She's putting on a red shirt. Like, that's not her spirit, is not just go with. And I'm like, but this lady literally passed the interview. She said the right things, and we need to just still assess to see if she's the right person for the role. And she said, no, no, no. Why she should be wearing red, that kind of thing, like it doesn't align with my spirit, that kind of thing. So I want to ask, this is going to be our last question because of course our time. How do we think we can curb that? Is it something that, because it unconsciously happens, it happens, I'm sure we've all experienced it. We see one fine person smiling or speaking fluently and we'll be like, oh, this person should be good. That's first positive, this thing that will just overshadow everything. How do you think we can, so I'll let Mr. Adetoye speak first. How do you think we can curb it as HR professionals? Is this something you think that have, how do I put this? It's something you think that we cannot control as humans, because we are humans, we are not robots, we are not ChatGPT. We are humans. So of course would definitely have some kind of, you know, preference or bias or sentiments. So how do you think we can curb it when it comes to hiring?
Okay. All right. Thank you. Good. I think because I've seen this happen to me, or I've seen it one way or the other, either as an interviewer or as a candidate, I can to an extent speak a little bit about it. Okay. halo effect. So I think we can all agree that during for any interview session, how an interview session starts sets the tone of how the whole session will go at the end of the day. Not all the time, but most times. I once worked with someone where when you are asked to introduce yourself, if if he doesn't feel the energy from that get-go,
Mm.
he
It's a
might
no
end up
for him.
spending nothing less than 5 minutes. I mean, and this is a business owner, a very big business owner. I'm not going to mention his name. When you start
Wow.
that session and you start poorly with that energy, you will just see him spend 5 minutes with you. And somebody else will start that session with a very strong energy, you will end up spending 20 minutes with different candidates. So I said that to say that I'm not going to take
Mm.
away how you that first impression is very important for every candidate. It matters a lot. However, like you said, speaking of halo effect, right? It can also create a bias if you are not wise about how to handle. So one of the best way to handle that is that have a very structured interview process
Interview.
where
Mm.
your questions are structured. So for example,
Yeah.
you can come in and wow me, but then I still have to
Mm.
go back to the structure, how I want the sessions to go,
Structure.
the
Mm.
questions that I want
Sure.
to ask, and that will also help me to manage that better. Another way is that always ensure that you're not the only one on the panel so that you have diverse opinion.
Different views. Yeah.
You have different views. So that's also very good about how that one can also manage it. Then I think another thing is that sometimes somebody can speak to you and give a very strong impression, and then you can almost be tempted to give them the feedback like, wow, I love what you just did. Like, I don't know, that kind of a feedback.
Yes.
Those
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
immediate feedback can also, you have to find a way to cover that.
Yes.
So when you are structured, when you are very structured, right, and then ensure that you're not the only one, so you can listen to all sides, listen to every other person's opinion about
No sides.
a
Yeah.
particular candidate. That will help to
Mm.
curb that halo effect. I mean, there are a lot of things
Wait.
I can say around it, but
Mm.
I mean, yes, that. Thank you.
That makes sense. I think that makes sense. So as if you're watching this, please, HR professionals, like next time I have to follow these rules. Thank you very much, sir. So, Mr. I question for you. When it comes to Mr. Ade, so you already talked about the recruiter's perspective now when it comes to halo effect. So when it comes to candidates, I don't think Mr. Isaac is on this call.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, I think the network just
Yes, I'm with
pushed him out. I need him to answer that part. Oh, the network is really terrible this night. Mr. Isaac, are you there?
Hello, I'm back.
Terrible talk. We're almost done. Hi, Mr. Isaac. Are you there?
Yes, I'm with you. Yes, I'm with you.
Hi, Mr. Are you there?
Yes, I'm with you. Can you hear me now?
Hmm. Network
I
is
can hear
really
him.
terrible.
I don't can't you
Okay.
hear?
Okay. I can hear you now. So we are almost done. I just needed you to finish. So Mr. Adete talked about the recruiter's perspective, how we can curb halo effect when it comes to interviewing, at least. So in your own perspective, what can you say to the candidates now? Because I know candidates will definitely be watching this. What can you say to them when it comes to halo effect? How do I put it? When it comes to interviews, um how can they should I say cope from the recruiter's perspective so that there won't any form of sentiment from the recruiter? How can you I don't know if you understand my question. So I want to go for interview. How can I prevent sentiments from the recruiter's perspective and say, oh, because of what I did, what are you to look out for? I don't know if you understand my question.
Sorry, can you come again?
Okay, so I was saying that Mr. Adetoye talked about how we can curb halo effects as an HR professional when we are interviewing, right? So I'm saying that from the candidate's perspective now, I want you to give your own take from the candidate's perspective. How do you think a candidate can, I don't know how to put the question, prevent right sentiments from the recruiter? Maybe there's a particular way you should see it, or there's a particular way you can position yourself, or there's a particular way you can give that energy, because he talked about energy when it comes to interviewing, that's first impression. So can you speak more on that? How do you think a candidate can assist a recruiter from being sentiment or from being sentimental about the interviewer? So because she did like this or because she said like this, I think I picked that. I'm not going to give her a go, something like that. So do you think that a candidate has something to do regarding that when it comes to interviews? Or is just the recruiter's problem? Like whatever the recruiter thinks is the recruiter's problem. What do you think?
Okay. Okay, so personally, I don't think the candidate has a lot to do in this aspect. Personally, I just recommend the candidate to just follow instructions, be formal. I really don't think the candidate can get into the started and influencing not to have his own perspective. Definitely, you get first impression. So it's just left to candidate to know the kind of interview go for, to prepare ahead. Of course, appear
All right, I
presentable.
think we
It
lost
is
him
going
because of.
If you don't mind, let me re-echo what you said. Can you hear me?
I think it's the network.
Just touch up on that so that we can end the session. So what do you think? Do you think the candidate has something to do regarding that, or is just the recruiter's problem?
Are you asking me to respond?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You can help respond to
Okay, so I'm
Isaac's
just going
question.
to re-echo what he said. I heard some of the things he said.
Okay.
He said the halo effect thing is more
Mm,
on the recruiter side than the candidates.
yeah.
So it's more tilted towards the recruiter side than the candidate. However, if I think I got your question, which I also share the same sentiment, I think
Yeah.
it's more on the recruiter side than the candidate. However, there's what we call on effect, which is the opposite of it.
Mm,
Think about it. It comes in late for an interview,
yeah.
right? Or the what's it called? Anything that's a bit of a negative of the halo effect, right? Like I mentioned,
Yeah.
arriving late, maybe it can pass an impression in the recruiter that, oh, you are unreliable, or you're
Yeah.
careless. It can set an impression. So
Yes.
however, you can still, if I believe that that can answer your question at the end of it, and you can almost sense that in their countenance sometimes. If a recruiter who is not very can almost show in your countenance. But one of the best way I think you can manage that better to your advantage is that first and foremost, you need to understand what the role entails. You also need to understand what the company is. Now, first, you also don't remember that you also have to apologize for coming in late for whatever must have caused the latest. You have to pass that impression on them, take
Mm,
responsibility for it, and then most importantly, now research the company well, how you're able to communicate your interest in the role and how you think you're a better fit for the role, and all of that can
yeah.
almost turn their mind, have a different impression about you. So you
Money.
also
Mm,
an interview might not start well, right? But you can still manage it at the
mm,
very end. So, but like I said earlier, that how you start to set a tone, but doesn't mean that if it starts poorly, it cannot end well, right? So, which comes into
mm,
researching the company, knowing what you need to do, saying the right things, and then also there's nothing wrong in
uh,
studying to prepare for an interview. There's nothing wrong in
mm.
doing that. So that can also pass an impression on the on the interviewer at the end of the day. It can change their
Awesome.
impression of you. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you very much. I think you've said it all. Like that's just basically what it is. Thank you so much, sir, for that. Because of our time, we need to go now. So I would say, let me start by saying thank you so much, Mr. Detoye. Thank you so much, Mr. Isaac, for joining this
Thank
session.
you.
It was awesome. It was awesome learning from you, sir. Like seriously, it was awesome, Mr. Isaac. It was awesome hearing you speak. Hearing you speak your mind. It's such an awesome session with you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And to those who are streaming with us, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mercy, for streaming with us. Like I'm sure you enjoyed you picked one or two. Like it's an awesome session. And those who would actually listen after this, thank you so much, guys. I would say this is the end of the session for tonight. We are going to meet definitely next week again. And I would not tell us what we have for next week. Next week is going to be much more juicer than this session. And I think we have a lot of network issues tonight. So I'm hoping that it's going to be better next week. So thank you so much, guys. I I love you all, and I'm going to see you next week. Bye bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye, Jane. Bye bye, Isaac.
Okay, thank you. Bye.